Modern national security and heavy infrastructure rely on a continuous supply of commercial stainless steel and platinum group metals. These materials are mandatory for the construction of high-pressure energy pipelines, naval vessels, and the high-performance alloys found in jet turbine engines. These applications require unique metallurgical properties to prevent steel from degrading under extreme heat and corrosive environments. Currently, there is zero known commercial substitute for chromium in the manufacturing of this hardware. That capability is tethered to a single source, raw chromite ore, an oxide mineral composed of chromium, iron, and oxygen, pulled directly from the Earth. The ability to deploy land, air, sea, or cyberspace military capabilities is not a matter of political will. It is an engineering requirement that depends entirely on the physical extraction of this rock. Western governments have explicitly designated these metals as critical vulnerabilities. To mitigate this risk, lawmakers are attempting to mandate resource independence, setting targets to secure domestic supply chains by the end of the decade. The 2024 European Union Critical Raw Materials Act is the centerpiece of this effort, setting strict benchmarks to ensure no single third country supplies more than 65% of the EU's annual consumption. However, the mathematical reality of current stockpiles contradicts these legislative goals. While the U.S. consumes roughly 380,000 tons of chromium annually, the Department of Defense currently holds only 920 tons. Recycling cannot bridge this gap. Because scrap is a finite loop, it cannot scale to meet the production of new defense hardware. Legislative independence is a physical impossibility. To build new infrastructure, superpowers remain completely dependent on the extraction of primary metal. The physical bottleneck is located in the Bushveld complex of South Africa. This region holds approximately 72% of the world's known chromium and 91% of all platinum group metals. Accessing these reserves requires deep-level underground mining. It is a slow, capital-intensive process of drilling, blasting, and hauling ore from miles beneath the surface. Due to the extreme engineering limits of deep shaft extraction, this is a multi-century process. It is estimated to take at least 200 years to fully deplete these reserves. This output cannot be replaced in a crisis. Other jurisdictions, like Kazakhstan, lack the scaled export capacity, and while Zimbabwe holds massive reserves, it has tightened restrictions on raw ore exports to force local processing. Because this ore body defies rapid scaling or short-term theft, the modern world is structurally bound to a long-term, stable extraction process. The logistics of this supply chain are as restrictive as the geology. The global supply chain relies on raw ore traveling over a single 600-mile freight rail network to reach the coast. This network feeds the deep-water ports that handle 76% of all global raw chromium exports. But the system is failing at the source. Rising energy constraints and a 900% increase in electricity costs have collapsed the local smelting industry. Deep shaft operations require constant power to run groundwater pumping stations. Without electricity, the water table rises, permanently flooding the shafts and stranding the ore. Because local processing is now too energy-intensive, the global economy relies entirely on exporting raw rock directly from the ground, removing any safety buffer from the supply chain. This creates a vector for asymmetric warfare. A geopolitical adversary doesn't need to use direct military force to disrupt a superpower. Intelligence networks can covertly fund civil unrest to intentionally destabilize the region, targeting the critical rail lines and power utilities that keep the mines operational. A localized grid failure would cause the permanent flooding of these shafts, locking the world's most critical minerals beneath the water table. With the pumps failed and the logistics corridor severed, the world's massive geological reserves become physically inaccessible. Global superpowers cannot sustain heavy conventional defense manufacturing for more than 6 to 12 months if this specific supply chain is severed. Absolute national sovereignty is a physical impossibility. If you depend on another nation to provide the materials for your defense, independence is an illusion. True resilience requires treating these minerals as an interdependent global network. To manage a system this fragile, humanity must use automated logistics and high-scale mapping to coordinate the routing of these minerals, securing the journey from the core of the Earth to global capital before the bottleneck is exploited.